Adisa and Deo were born into different yet equally rich and vibrant backgrounds, their lives shaped by the warmth of their families and the deep-rooted traditions of their Yoruba heritage. Adisa, the firstborn son of a respected teacher and a skilled fabric trader, grew up in a home filled with books, laughter, and the rhythmic hum of a sewing machine. His mother's hands wove intricate patterns into colorful ankara, just as his father wove wisdom into the minds of his students. From a young age, Adisa learned to balance curiosity with responsibility, often watching over his younger siblings while dreaming of adventures beyond their compound walls. Deo, on the other hand, was the last-born son of a well-known hunter and a gifted storyteller. His father's tales of the forest, of cunning tortoises, mischievous spirits, and brave warriors, painted his childhood with imagination. His mother, with her lilting voice and expressive gestures, could turn even the simplest stories into grand epics. Deo was naturally drawn to storytelling, always eager to recreate his father's hunting escapades or invent his own daring exploits. Unlike Adisa's structured upbringing, his childhood was filled with the unpredictability of the wild, with mornings spent exploring the thick bushes and evenings listening to folktales by the fire. Though they had never met in those early years, fate seemed to weave their lives in parallel, preparing them for the moment their paths would cross. When Deo's family relocated to Ibadan, it was as if a missing piece had fallen into place. Their mothers, both strong-willed women, saw in each other the promise of friendship, and soon, so did their sons. Their bond grew effortlessly, nurtured by shared experiences and an unspoken understanding of each other's dreams. By the time they were 16, their friendship had become more than a childhood connection. It was a sacred bond, sealed beneath the towering Iroko tree, where the spirits of their ancestors bore witness to a promise that would shape their destinies forever. Deo was not just my best friend, he was the other half of my soul, the brother fate had gifted me outside of blood. From the moment we met, our lives intertwined like the roots of the ancient Iroko, impossible to separate. We dreamed together, our hearts filled with the same reckless hopes of youth. We chased the same girls, laughing when they turned us away and boasting when one of us caught a fleeting smile. We shared meals from the same plate, not out of necessity, but because it felt wrong to eat alone when the other was near. Through every hardship, every joyous moment, we stood side by side, believing that nothing, no time, no distance, not even the gods, could break the bond we had sworn to protect. But the gods are cruel in the way they reveal their truths. As we grew older, the winds carried whispers that I chose to ignore, their warnings like distant thunder before a storm I refused to acknowledge. They murmured of treachery, of a shadow stretching between us, but I silenced them with the weight of my loyalty. I told myself that Deo was incapable of such things, that no force in this world or beyond could twist his heart against me. Yet, even as I reassured myself, I began to notice the changes, small at first, like a crack in a clay pot too fine to see but deep enough to let the water escape. His laughter grew shorter, his gaze more distant, and his words, once so warm, carried an unfamiliar chill. The day the betrayal came, it did not strike like a lightning bolt but unfolded like a slow, agonizing wound, each revelation slicing deeper than the last. I looked into the eyes of the boy I had once sworn my life to and saw a stranger staring back. The weight of his choices crushed me more than any blade ever could. The memories we had built, the promises we had made, they all crumbled like dry leaves beneath my feet. And as I stood there, drowning in the wreckage of what we once were, I realized that the gods had not been warning me to stop it. They had been preparing me for the pain of losing him long before I knew I would. It happened the year we turned 25, in the quiet hush of a season that should have been the happiest of my life. For 3 years, I had love soared with a depth that frightened and thrilled me in equal measure. She was the kind of woman the gods crafted with extra care, her beauty effortless, her spirit luminous. When she laughed, the world felt softer, as if the weight of its sorrows could be momentarily forgotten. Her love was my sanctuary, the one place where I could lay my burdens down without fear. I had dreamt of a future with her, of a home filled with the scent of warm meals, the echoes of shared laughter, and the gentle hum of a life lived in harmony. I had planned to marry her, to build something enduring, something untouched by the loss that had once shattered my family. But love, like life, is never safe from the hands of fate. Just when I thought happiness was within my grasp, darkness slithered its way between us, coiling like a serpent around my joy. Tragedy arrived unannounced, ruthless in its cruelty. One day, she was in my arms, whispering about forever. The next, she was gone. Taken too soon, too unfairly, as if the gods themselves envied our love and sought to reclaim it. I remember screaming her name into the night, willing the wind to carry my grief to whatever realm had stolen her from me. The pain was a living thing, gnawing at the edges of my sanity, refusing to let me forget that happiness had once been mine, and now it was ash in my hands. In the days that followed, I moved through the world as a ghost of myself. The dreams I had woven with such care unraveled thread by thread, leaving nothing but emptiness where a future had once been. I searched for meaning in the echoes of her laughter, in the scent of her still clinging perfume, in the spaces where she should have been. But there was no meaning, only loss. Only the cruel truth that love is never promised, that even the brightest flames can be extinguished by a fate that does not care for the heart it breaks. And so, I stood at the edge of my grief, staring into its abyss, wondering if I would ever find my way back, or if a part of me had died with her that day. But Deo, my blood, my shadow, wanted what was mine. The brother I had trusted with my life, the one I had sworn loyalty to beneath the ancient Iroko tree, had betrayed me in the cruelest way. It began as a whisper, so faint I almost convinced myself it was nothing. The way his eyes followed sword when he thought I wasn't looking, the way his laughter grew richer, fuller, whenever she was near. I told myself I was imagining things, that the bond we had forged since childhood was stronger than jealousy, than desire. But doubt crept into my heart like a slow poison, eating away at the trust one had built over the years. Then the whispers in the market square began. The voices of old women, their words sharpened like knives, cut into my soul before I could shield myself from the pain. Have you heard? Deo and Sword were seen together near the riverbank. They say she laughs at his jokes the way she once did for Adisa. My hands clenched into fists, my heart pounded like the talking drum before war, but still, I refused to believe it. Not Deo. Not Sword. I loved her with every part of me, and he was my brother, the one person who had sworn to stand by me. The gods would not be so cruel as to twist their hearts away from me. So I closed my ears, ignored the warnings, and convinced myself that love, true love, could not be stolen. But the truth is like fire, it always burns its way out. And when it did, it left nothing but ash and agony in its wake. I saw them with my own eyes, their figures illuminated by the setting sun, standing too close, their voices too soft. I waited for Sword to push him away, for Deo to look guilty, ashamed, but neither did. They stood there, wrapped in something I could not name, something that did not belong to them. My knees weakened, my breath caught in my throat, and in that moment, I felt something inside me break. A part of me died that day, the part that believed in loyalty, in brotherhood, in the kind of love that could withstand the storms of fate. What remained was a man shattered beyond repair, watching the two people he loved most in the world betray him in the most unforgivable way. One night, I followed the trail of my suspicions to the very place where our friendship had been sealed, the towering Iroko tree that had once stood as a witness to our brotherhood. But what I saw beneath its sprawling branches was not loyalty, not the echoes of childhood promises, but treachery in its rawest form. There they stood, hands entwined, their whispered words stolen by the night breeze, their closeness a dagger to my already bleeding heart. My breath caught in my throat. My pulse roared like a war drum. And in that moment, the world I had built, one where love was sacred and brotherhood unbreakable, collapsed into ruin. My heart shattered, fragile as a calabash meeting the unyielding force of stone. Rage consumed me, blinding and absolute. I stormed forward, the weight of betrayal tightening my fist into weapons. How could you? I roared, my voice cracking like thunder against the darkened sky. Sword flinched, her eyes wide with guilt, with fear. Adisa, it's not what you think, she stammered, her voice trembling like a leaf caught in the harmattan wind. But her words meant nothing, their emptiness only deepening the chasm that had formed in my soul. I let out a bitter, hollow laugh. Not what I think. Then tell me what it is. Tell me why my best friend, my brother, holds my love like she was never mine. My voice was raw, a wound torn open, bleeding before them. Deo stepped forward, hands raised as if to soothe, as if to reason. Adisa, listen, but I did not want to listen. I could not. No. I bellowed, my chest heaving, my fury trembling in my bones. You. My own blood. My own shadow. And this is how you repay me. Before he could speak again, before his lies could stain the air, my fist found his jaw. The first blow sent him stumbling, but I did not stop. Blow after blow, I rained upon him, my fist fueled by the pain clawing at my soul, by the betrayal that burned hotter than any fire. He did not fight back, did not raise his hand to defend himself. And yet, it did not matter. No amount of punishment could erase the truth, could mend the fracture in my spirit. My tears mixed with my fury, falling to the earth like offerings to a cruel fate. When at last I stepped back, breathless and broken, the silence between us was deafening, a funeral song for the brotherhood we had buried that night. Without another word, I turned and walked away from everything. From sword, from Deo, from the dreams we had once dared to share. The pain did not fade, it swallowed me whole, and in its place, recklessness was born. I wandered through life as a lost warrior, drowning in palm wine until dawn, gambling away the remnants of my hope. The village elders whispered that I was cursed, consumed by my own rage. But they did not know the void Deo had left in my soul. They did not understand that I had not merely lost love, I had lost myself. Years have passed, but the wound remains, festering beneath the surface like an ember that refuses to die. I still visit that Iroko tree, not to relieve the agony of betrayal, but to mourn the boy I once was, the boy who believed in friendship, in love, in forever. I stand beneath its towering branches, tracing the scars carved into its bark, much like the scars left on my soul. The whispers of the wind sound like echoes of laughter that once filled these woods, the laughter of two boys who thought nothing could ever come between them. But time has stolen that innocence, and all that remains is silence. I sometimes wonder if the tree remembers that night, if it still holds the ghost of our promises within its roots. I have searched for healing, for something to quiet the storm inside me, but peace is an elusive thing, slipping through my fingers like water no matter how tightly I try to hold on. I have drowned in distractions, drunken nights, meaningless fights, fleeting embraces with women whose names I forget before dawn. But nothing fills the void. Nothing silences the voice in my head that still asks why. Why did Deo betray me? Why did sword let him? Why did the gods allow me to love so deeply, only to rip it all away? I have prayed to them, pleaded for answers, but the heavens remain indifferent, watching me wander through life as a man without purpose, without direction, a mere shadow of who I once was. Perhaps, one day, the gods will grant me peace. Perhaps, one day, I will wake up and the ache in my chest will no longer weigh me down like an anchor. But until that day, I remain lost, a man forever haunted by the past, drifting through existence like a fallen leaf carried by the wind. I search for something, redemption, closure, a way to stitch my soul back together, but deep down, I fear that what I have lost can never be found again.